it's 10 a.m. right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, good evening. Wherever in the world you're watching from, it's Business Morning, live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, now let's kick off what's happening in the markets. Let's start with the oil markets. Now, we see oil prices edged up today after Saudi Arabia warned that OPEC could cut output to correct recent drop in oil futures. Brent crude futures rose 32 cents to $96.80 a barrel in early trade after a choppy session on Monday when they dropped by more than $4 before paring losses to trade near flat. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose 37 cents to $90.73 a barrel. The benchmarks are down about 12% and 8% this month, respectively. We're still seeing quite a choppy market there in the oil market. Now to our first conversation. Africa's biggest economy, talking about Nigeria, is already spending more money on just debt servicing. And with a worsening financial crisis, what's the way forward? Let's have that conversation now with Mr. Paul Alaje, senior economist, SPM Professionals. We have him right there on Zoom. Mr. Alaje, I don't know if you can hear me. Great to have you. So,
good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on for the first time. It's been a while I've seen you on the show. But I see debt is mounting, and I'm hearing chatter that there might be an IMF bailout conversation in the offing. And I'm wondering, how are you seeing it?
Well, I think it will be a good one. IMF had informed Nigeria earlier in the year, around May, that Nigeria may have a window for doing this. So if we are going to have that bailout system, I think it will go a long way to help the country with the burden of service. And you recall that the presentation by the minister, it revealed that we are spending so much in terms of service of debt, even though that these arrangements, if it works out, will not be a permanent solution. The reason is because when you look at the component of our debt profile, a lot of private loans, if you like, talking about bond, talking about treasury bills, both local and those that are international in nature, talking about Eurobond, many of those are not what we can do something about on the immediate, because it is purely market driven and it's not what government can meet. Unlike when we talk to to an international institution such as IMF, but talking to IMF, I think we bring a lot of succor to the country right now, because from the revelation shared by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, that in Q1 of this year we spent far more than what we realized in revenue to service debt alone. So the question is, how have we been getting money to perform responsibility of government and to provide the basic amenities for our people?
And what if we don't get a bailout? What next?
The burden of debt continue to tie round on our neck. And I've called it the kiss of debt, because if what we are generating revenue is not enough to service debt, then government will need to do more in terms of revenue. And if you ask me, between restructuring loan and getting more revenue, which do I think is the relatively permanent solution to Nigerian government? I would say is finding revenue. President Buhari agreed with this November or December 2019 when he said, 2018, when he said the largest concern he has now is not whether he will win election in 2019 or not, but the largest concern he has now is that when and if he wins, how will he finance government? And we are seeing that concern play out even this moment today.
And, it's a pre-election year, and next year a new government is going to be taking over the helms of affairs there. But what do you think should be their first move when they get into office?
The first move is, how do I generate revenue? Nigeria has potential of generating up to 40 trillion naira revenue today. Unfortunately, what we are doing in terms of revenue is far below that. We are looking at approximately 7, 8, or 9 trillion. We are not able to do at federal government level up to 10 trillion naira, and that is worrisome for a population with over 200 million, an economy worth over $400 billion. Where is the money? And I think this is the question that should be asked. And many have suggested maybe government should increase taxes. You've seen government saying it wants to impose 5% tax on mobile calls. And I wonder if that will really help, because when you impose a lot of taxes in that way on the people, especially generality of the population, you might not really be able to separate the rich from the poor, even though you say it is, what kind of tax will that be? Will it be progressive? Will it be proportional tax, or will it be a regressive tax? And if it's flat rate of, if it is 5% on all calls, then you don't say the rich is paying more. But there are things where the rich buy that government have not been able to tax. And someone who also work in revenue line and as a revenue collector, I can tell you that this country has a lot of potentials, but we are perhaps using the wrong system, the wrong approach to generate revenue. And whosoever becomes the president of the Federal Republic, he must understand that for you to lead the people correctly, for you to provide for people's needs, and for you to be the chief executive indeed, you must generate, if you cannot do 40 trillion, you must do 20 trillion naira in revenue starting from 2024. How can that be done? It is possible, it can be done, and I strongly believe it can be achieved.
Right, quite a lot of work for the next president to do, talking about the Nigerian economy. But thank you so much, Mr. Paul Alaje, senior economist, SPM Professionals. It's great having your perspective this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now, so that was Mr. Paul Alaje there. So after the break, we look at the state of the power sector in Nigeria and the federal government inaugurating a new board. That's our next discussion. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back. Now to our next conversation. The federal government has completed the takeover of 4 electricity distribution companies and constituted the board of the Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company. Let's see how far these actions will go. To help us make sense of this, we have Engineer Sunday Oyewole, power utility consultant, joining us right here in the studio. Great to have you.
Thank you so much.
So the takeover is completed now, and apparently we have a new board. How do you see all of this development?
Yeah, well, I believe it's in the right direction. First of all, I want to say that federal government, on their own part, have their issues, and the discourse to maybe Nigerians know can judge better. I will tell you that over the time and over the period, over 8 years of takeoff, they have tried to see that the muscle left and right to ensure that things goes right. But unfortunately, federal government had its own part to play, which they never played. They tried, but it was still in process. Then the discos themselves have tried several ways. We all know that when they were taking off, at the time they were taking over, there were issues. They could not really access the facilities in the disco because of the issues with the union. But then they took over and they started. And why do we really have to privatize the disco? Now, to bring in discipline, to bring in private participation, such that when the disco take over, the issue of maybe government cannot do business like the private concerns will be things of the past. But even then, after they took over, there were issues which they could not deal with immediately. But I will tell you, the discos today are better off than when they started. Though Nigeria may not agree with me, right, but I will tell you that they're a little better off than when they started.
Yeah, just a little better off in your opinion. But do you think this move could resolve the tariff shortfalls in the power sector?
Well, I will tell you, the power sector is a regulated environment. And I will tell you that can never resolve it. First of all, look at the Naira and the dollar crisis. What's the equipment we buy maybe for 4 million 8 years ago is now about 15, 20 million. So tell me, the same disco will go to the market to buy the same equipment, to better the lots of their system. How will they break even with this kind of tariff? It's not possible. So the federal government has to look into that and try to see.
And talking about the federal government actually looking into this tariff issue, what would you say should be the plan of action, at this time?
Yeah. Now, at this time, I believe that though the federal government, to some extent, the takeover of some of the discos, if it's transparently done, and maybe the balls are changed the way they are going right now, I believe it could yield better results. But I'll tell you, it's still in the same pool. The same Nigerians are taking over. So what do they have to bring to the table? That is one. So let me see, looking at the dollar and the Naira crisis, it is difficult for the government, to continue to maintain this tariff, this present tariff, and yet want the discos to break even, especially with the current power supply situation in the country.
So even with this current supply, with these tariffs we're seeing at this time, breaking even is nearly impossible from that's in your perspective. But one of the mandates for the new board that's been set up by the federal government is to protect the interest, of the citizens and the consumers of electricity. And I'm wondering, do you think they can actually achieve that, at this time? Seeing that even the the discos are strapped, are cash strapped at this point.
Yes. Anyway, I want to say that the federal government on their own have woken up to some extent, and the CBN are supporting disco, and I believe if all goes according to plan, we could begin to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, talking about light at the end of a tunnel, we would like to see light and constant power, in this country. And, well, it's a time where, it's a pre-election time, and we've been battling with this whole power issue in Nigeria for many years now. What would you say could be that turning point to, make us actually stand out and say, okay, at some point, Nigeria can actually generate 24-hour power. The companies don't have to rely on diesel, to power their plants and all of that. What would you say is that move that we need to make at this point?
It's a lot of sacrifice. Everybody has to do that sacrifice. First of all, corruption has been a major problem of the country. And I tell you today, we have gas problem. The generations cannot generate power because of shortage of gas. You recall that recently there was a pledge to at least to generate 5,000 megawatts constantly. But as I talk to you today, they are still managing to get to that point, 5,000 megawatts. And I tell you, what is the issues? First of all, the gas pool, the gas supply has issues right from the onset, because Nigeria joined the gas pool, the West African gas pool also. And because of that, they have forgotten that the same gas will be used, to run our turbines in Nigeria. And because of that, you find that there's gas shortage every time. Today, if there's generation dip, the complaint has always been gas problem. If you look at what NIPP did, that is Niger dams, what do you call them, did when they came on board, they have been able to bring in so many generating stations, and they have a capacity in total close to about 13,000 megawatts. But today, what do we have? We are still grouping below 4,500 megawatts. This is because of gas problem. And it was not a bad idea anyway for the government to have put all our eggs in one basket, that is going gas, because that is the shortest way through which we can generate power.
And we see that, Europe they've been struggling with gas for a while now because, Russia's turned off the taps and turned it back on and reduced capacity.
Exactly.
But in Nigeria, we do have, gas in Nigeria, but it seems we're still struggling, with gas. But at the end of the day, we're still, we're in a period Nigerians will call a strike period. Everyone seems to be striking these days, and recently we saw electricity workers actually, pull off that strike, and the discos complained of losing billions, with that strike. And I'm wondering, I think they've given the government about 2 weeks, and I'm wondering what next.
Yeah, anyway, I wouldn't want to delve too much into that, but I believe that the trade union, they themselves, after taking that step, we have a rethink. Nigeria is not to be toiled with. People should not just go to the streets and shut down the grid system. You should shut down the grid system based on principle, and people will see reason with you why you are shutting down the grid. The grid has to do with the economy of this country.
Right.
So why should they go that way? They shouldn't. So I believe that before 2 weeks, they will have a rethink.
So we might not see, hopefully, we might not see a strike. Well, the transmission arm, of the power sector value chain, some have described it as quite problematic. Yeah. How do you see that sector?
Yeah, you see, unfortunately, there have been very good plan, by federal governments, especially for transmission. Especially, when it comes to implementation, it has been a problem. But I tell you, part of the problems and issues at the withered transmission station, company, is because of how to plant their stations and draw lines. Today, we have a station at Okero. That station is supposed to evacuate power to Alausa and to Oworo, to Lagos anyway. Now, for over close to 8 to 10 years, they couldn't do that because of right of way. They have to pay way leave, and every day the way leave is increasing, and we expect by now the state government of Ogun State and Lagos State should have come together to ensure that that is done. Because you see, we cannot be playing lip service, so to say, when we have something to do and we are not doing it. Yeah, they have to come in and then they can solve that problem. And those are the problems all over. The transmission company of Nigeria have planned to create a ring circuit in Lagos for the past 10 years. And as I talk to you, most of the places where they are supposed to do, site transmission stations, they've not been able to do so because of either land issue or the other.
Right. Quite interesting because, we've been, I've experienced power issues in this country practically all my life, and it'd be great to see, at some point that we solve this power issue, because it will have an incredible domino effect with the economy. Thank you so much, Engineer Sunday Oyewole, power and utility consultant. It was great having your perspective on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, now, so after the break, we head on to the commodities market. We'll see what's happening there. Quite a lot of volatility in the market. That's our next conversation. Just stay with us. This is Business Morning. Still watching Business Morning live on Channels Television. Let's drill down now on the commodities market. We have Clement Igbanugbo, economist and financial derivatives company, joining us right here in the studio. Great to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I was talking about the oil market earlier on in the show, and I see volatility is still very much present in that market. I see the oil prices are up this morning. What's driving sentiment today?
Yes, in the global markets, investors are weighing in on different options, weighing in on the news and the expectation of what will happen next. So you have a lot of global economies experiencing slowdown here and there, and their expectation that it may go further than we think, and also their expectation that the Iran deal will be successful, and then that will lead to increase in supply, and then it means that the price of oil will come down. So there are a lot of expectations in the air, and those things are driving investors' sentiment.
Yeah, so much expectations. And
So
I'm looking
much.
at, I'm fast forwarding to the end of the year. Where do you see oil prices?
What we see, the end of the year 2020, oil price will not be less than 90.
Not less than 90.
It won't be less than $90.
Okay.
Because we are not seeing any significant improvement in the supply chain in the near term. So whatever you're going to see in terms of improvement in supply, because you know that for you to increase the supply of oil, it takes a whole lot. It takes a whole lot of lag to increase that supply. So currently what we have, the end of 2022, we're not going to see so much pump into the market. So the price will still be hovering between 90 and 100.
And we see Saudi Arabia making some comments I saw earlier talking about actually not getting that much output. We saw that actually, have an impact on the price.
Yeah, because it pays the oil producers to have less output in the market so that the price will be higher.
Since the oil producers are enjoying that price,
they're enjoying,
they want to keep it elevated.
Yeah, of course. If you do the same as a businessman, but unfortunately for Nigeria, it's a different ballgame, it's a different story altogether. Because if you look at the Nigerian figures, you discover that from January 4th till date, oil price has gained not less than 20%.
Right.
But exchange rate has depreciated more than 21%. And external reserve has also lowered more than 4%.
Right.
So you see that it doesn't appear Nigeria is actually gaining from the windfall.
And I guess that's why those oil companies need to be charged that windfall tax we've been hearing about in the UK, because they're the ones profiting from all of this. We're seeing rising energy costs, globally, and consumers are being squeezed, at this point.
Of course. You remember when even Biden was even charging the marketers in the US that they're even part of the problem, keeping the prices high. So it's really a windfall time for them in Europe, in the US, and other places that are not net oil exporters. Right. It's unfortunate that the story is different here.
Yeah, quite unfortunate.
The subsidy story and all of that.
Yeah.
So our money is just going another direction that is just a deadweight loss to society.
It'd be nice to hear a different narrative at some point. But natural gas, that has surged this year about almost over 100% this year, talking about natural gas. And we're seeing Mozambique, they're exporting the first LNG. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, sure. I think the natural gas is the next big deal. And I think that is where Nigeria needs to reposition itself. But unfortunately, I don't think we are really taking that trajectory. Because Nigeria has the highest proven natural gas reserve.
We've had talks with Europe.
The talks are there, but the fears are there also. Because, the kind of insecurity you have in Nigeria has to do also with the oil activities and all of that. The communities are agitating. Yes, you have the PIA, but was that the real consensus? And so the communities are still not comfortable. So you're having oil theft here and there, pipeline vandalization, force majeure here and there. So when people that are already on ground, the IOCs are enforcing force majeure, how will the new investment come in? So there are lots of issues there in the oil sector. For example, you discover that, yes, Nigeria has the highest reserve, more than 200 trillion feet, right? While Mozambique is about 100. Mozambique, it was just around 2010 that they just make that big discovery. And investment just started about 2017.
And they're already exporting.
They're already exporting because the dynamics are different. The fiscal incentives are better there. And yes, you have pockets of insecurities here and there, but they are well defined. But here, they are not well defined. Look at the minister was telling us that we're losing 400,000 barrels a day. That means that if you stretch it, you discover that 400,000 barrels we are losing in a day. It means that in a year we are losing more than $15 billion.
That's a lot of money.
And that's a lot of money. And nobody wants to do that kind of business. So they want to come in, but the feet dragging is still there. And that means there is a whole lot that we're going to fix in order to ensure that that investment, that we take advantage of that investment in oil, in gas, because that's the new end thing.
That's a new thing right now,
sure.
And we know Europe is in dire need of all of that, and they're trying to make deals
everywhere
all
that they can make that deal.
So this is the time to actually key in for Nigeria. All right, let's look at China now. We see their property market. That market has been quite volatile for a while now. We're seeing they're slashing the mortgage rate. Why are they doing this?
Yeah, sure. You know, China has a different problem from what the whole world is passing through. You discover that you're talking about inflation here and there, and people are raising interest rate. That's not the case in China. In China, inflation is 2.7%.
Almost seems self-inflicted.
Yeah, of course. The COVID, and then the
zero tolerance.
Exactly. Because they have that zero tolerance for COVID. And also, you know, the real estate is actually having their own challenges at this time. So China is quickly losing momentum. And so they need to do something quickly. If you see, in the past 10 years, China has grown on average of 6.7%. Just first quarter of this year, they slowed 1.4. And last quarter, that's the quarter two, the economy contracted 2.6. And so if you look at consumer borrowing, in fact, the official figure from China is saying that between June and July, consumer borrowing slumped from $124 billion to $18 billion. And investment borrowing, that's corporate borrowing, slumped from $344 billion to just $42 billion. So the consumer sentiment, the confidence is negative, the investor confidence is negative. But also in the property sector, in the mortgage sector, you discover that about 2 months ago, they protested and said, we are not paying our mortgage again, you know, because, of course, you know, in China, it's not an option to default, because you'll be listed, the debt list, you know, and that's messier for you. So they protested, we're not going to pay. Because a whole lot of things went into that sector because of the cheap money they got at a point in time. And so there was so much, the real estate deal was so much that, in fact, some of the real estate companies were even going into other investment, into electric cars, into other, because there was cheap money for them too. And so it ballooned. And of course, you know what happens when you have bubbles.
Oh, yes, you have
and
that
so
bubble.
the bubble is busting now, you know, and so, but they need to keep the momentum. They need to have a
and they also had that Evergrande issue.
Yes, you know, Evergrande is, I think, that the main dealer in the entire deal, because even Evergrande, they entered into electric motors. They even bought a football team.
Wow.
Yeah, because that was cheap money. And you know the way they do what they do in China is you go to an area where you have piece of land, you buy those lands, and then you sell them before you build on them.
Right.
And so people have purchased, pay 30%, pay 50% for those lands. Now you
so they
build.
Need to have the finish.
But the economy is long. There's no money. Because when people are not purchasing, it means that firms won't be able to also produce, because so when you produce and the inventories are there, you can't go that. So you see the turnover rate is already low, and then what it means is that there's going to be layoff, and so the money is not there again for even them to pay off what they have started paying. And at the time they make those purchases, they were at a very exorbitant rate because of the bubble, you know. So now the chickens have come to roost, and they need to realize the real true value of that market.
I'll keep tracking that market. Let's see what's happening with some agricultural commodities now. We see cocoa. We have a National Cocoa Management Committee to regulate that sector. What can we expect from this?
Well, one can say good news.
Okay.
Nigeria used to have a cocoa board before, management board before, in the 60s, and then it was later disbanded because of issues of transparency, corruption, and all that. But here we are trying to go into that, a bigger deal again, because, you know, if you look at Ghana and Ivory Coast, this living differentials, because what they do is, that's okay, you are producing cocoa, but we want to encourage you to produce more. And so this is the market price or the floor price. Okay, so if you sell 1 ton, you get 1 ton, you're going to sell at this price, we'll give you extra $400. So that premium is going to encourage people to produce more. And so that is actually having some impact in Ivory Coast, in Ghana. And that also is a kind of stimulating smuggling in Nigeria, because some people producing in some border countries could also take it to Ghana and take advantage of that premium. So Nigeria now is actually planning to go into that initiative, which will encourage cocoa production. Of course, if you look at Nigeria cocoa production, Nigeria's yield is just about 2,600 hectograms per hectare, while in Ghana you have about 5,500 hectograms per hectare, and in Ivory Coast you have about 4,700. The total output for Ivory Coast is about 2.2. All right, Nigeria is just 340,000. 2.2 million for Ivory Coast, 340. But Nigeria has total farmland, agricultural land, of 70.8 million, while Ivory Coast just have...
So with the little they have...
They just have 20.8. Both are doing much more. But that's not just the end of the story. It will be a bigger news if we begin to think about the global value chain. Africa produces about 79% of cocoa in the world globally.
And we're not making that money from
chocolate. But
chocolate.
We are not processing.
Yeah.
In fact, just grinding is just only 90% that Africa does. And so you see, the entire value chain, the global value chain, we are just occupying a tiny space. All right? And so we lose so much money. So I think beyond the committee is, how do we take advantage of the global value chain? How do we go into processing? How do we go into kind of integration to these smallholder farmers, so that, first of all, we ensure we're going to get higher yield, but also we're going to process this, because that is where you even get much more foreign exchange earning. But that step is the first step in the right direction, because oil is no more dependent.
So we need to see more steps.
We need to diversify.
Exactly.
Oil is no more dependable today.
Yeah, everyone is transitioning, trying to transition at this time. We're seeing more electric cars,
yes,
popping up, and people are buying more electric cars at this time. So how are the domestic commodity markets looking?
Yeah, fine. This is a harvest season, and we expect that there's going to be moderation in prices in the domestic market. But of course, we have our legacy constraints, the insecurity. A lot of people cannot go to their farms, and so that reduces the land space that is farmed. And so that's also going to reduce the yield, what we're going to see in terms of output in the market. But overall, we expect that there will be moderation in prices of domestic commodities. But remember, when you begin to compare with 2021, it will still remain elevated.
It's still elevated at this point, and it's quite a struggle, because we're seeing all these commodities selling at their premiums, at this point, and at a time where consumers are squeezed. And I'm wondering, how far can the Nigerian consumer go?
One of the things that these people think about in the market, because consumers are economic agents. This reasoning is spontaneous. When they sell their commodity, they're going to go to the market and buy TV sets. They're going to go to the market, they're going to pay school fees and things like that. Right. And so while the prices of other commodities are skyrocketing, they have that already in their programming, that after selling, I'm going to go to the market to buy. So that is going to influence their pricing. All right. I remember the last week of July, when Naira raised to about 717 per dollar. I went to the market, and you see the way prices were changing. And what is it? When we finish selling, we're going to go and buy. And dollar has increased. It's selling the old stock, but because expectation is what drives the market. And for that expectation, they have started repricing, their products, in order to make sure that after selling, they are not thrown out of the market.
Right.
So you see, so all of those things will come to play in determining what actually the market prices will be.
All right, we'll keep tracking those markets.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Clement Igbanugo, economist at Financial Directors Company. It was great having your perspective.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
All right, we'll go to break now. When we come back, we'll drill down on the markets. That's in a moment. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Let's drill down on the markets. Now we have Anyete with the details. Well, Anyete, 49,344 points, yes. Below 50K. 50. I don't know why I feel like it's going to be below 50K for a while.
Well, you know, Ladi, if you can remember, at some point we were celebrating that 50,000 points mark. Yeah. And then at some point it was, you know, galloping. We thought, oh, yes, this market is really going, you know, at a very fast pace. It reached about 53,000, if I could remember, or 54,000. Yeah, but it was above 50,000. Now, take a look at the picture. If we take a look at the big picture, we'll see that it's going below the 49,000 level. But let's take ourselves to the market. Now, this is how the market turned at the close of Tuesday's trading session. 0.05% decline, another decline on the all-share index, and then the level at which it is now is 49,344.67, as you can see on the board there, and that translates to a drop in value of nearly 14 billion naira, 13.99 billion naira loss. That loss is what you might call the profit-taking aspect of the market. Now, that's on the board there. Sectoral performance, it was not too good picture. Consumer goods was the only more significant gainer there, thanks to Honeywell flour, which gained 8.6. It went up by 8.68%. But when you take a look at the banking counter, as well as the insurance and the oil and gas counter, they were down, no thanks to losses from ETI, GTCO, UBA. Those were the key components there. Then as well, the market's decline is also attributed to NGX loss. MRS, Owando, the cumulative was more of 19 losers at the close of Tuesday's trading session. Now, take a look at the activity. Volume of activity was down by 7.19%. Value was down by 20.75%, which is what you see here, 1.30 billion naira in value. But when you take a look at the number of deals, the number of deals was at 3,915. At the close of the day. Now, let's bring us up to speed with what's going on at the market, and then, of course, to tell us why the market is still, you know, the way it is. Let's talk to Peter Abe of Stanbic IBTC Stockbrokers. Thank you for joining us, Peter. Hello, Peter, can you hear me? Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I think we have a bit of connection issues there. Now, this is the smaller unlisted securities market, which is what you might call the junior brother of the stock market. Securities are traded there. So it was also down. Another market experiencing some bearish touch there. 0.13% is what it fell at the close of Monday's trading session, the start of the week, the 4th trading week of August. Now, the market cap, it was at some point at the 1 trillion naira level, but it's receded a little bit, which shows that profit taking is not just on the equities market, but as well as the unlisted securities market. Now take a look at the volume. The volume there is still thin. 979,129 securities were traded there. The total value is 150.37 million, and the number of deals is just 13. Now let's flip over to the fixed income market. At the fixed income market, activities at the bond market was with a slightly bearish note. The average yield there contracted by 13 basis points to 12.6%. But on the board that you see there, the highest number of deals was carried out on the 21st of January 2042 paper. It had 4 deals there. The value there was 3.8 billion. But when you take the big picture, combining all of them, the total number of deals carried out there was 10 at the value of 15.1 billion naira. Over to the Treasury bills market, it had a slightly bullish bias. Average yield there paired by 1 basis point to 7.9%. Across the curve, the average yield contracted at the short and mid segments, following mild interest in the 94-day to maturity and the 171-day to maturity bills, but was flat at the long end. So, but this is what you had at the close of Monday's trading session. The 10th of November 2022 paper, it had just one deal, shows that the investors, well, maybe most likely because of the inflation report, or we also will be having some expectations at the market. Now, that bigger picture is the central bank's special bills, which the concentration was mostly on the 29th of August paper for this year, which is sometime next week. So the total number of deals carried out there was 37, and the number of deals was just 12. Okay, so now let's talk to our guest to bring us up to speed with what we were mentioning about the equities market. Thank you for joining us, Peter.
All right, looks like we don't have Peter at this point, Anita, but well, we'll see how the market closes today, where maybe we might have some kind of uptick. I'm used to like one green in a week, but we'll see how
I wouldn't share your optimism. I wouldn't share your optimism.
All right, thank you so much, Anita. All right, now let's head on to other markets. Now we see the price of Bitcoin that gained bearish momentum, and the market still in fear. Let's get the fear greed index now. We can see it's about 28 points there. 28 points is going deeper, might get to extreme fear. That's how I see it at this point. It's 28 points, and we saw the market cap. Let's see what the market cap is saying this morning there. About $1.01 trillion, talking about the crypto market cap. I saw that yesterday. It dipped below the $1 trillion mark and actually popped back up. But we're back here at $1.01 billion, but it's down about 0.70% this morning. Volume traded $71.40 billion, 22% up. And we see Bitcoin dominance there below 40%. That's not happened in a while there. It's 39.96%. Let's see the price of Bitcoin at 8 a.m. this morning, $21,077, down 1.26%. But at this trading hours, about 21,400. Volume traded in Bitcoin, $32.79 billion. Let's see what's happening with Ethereum there, $1,575 there, down 0.65%, even though we have merge coming up. Volume traded 18 point. Now we see quite a move there. Looking at the Ethereum chart there, we see we've pumped back up there to $1,600 at this hour. Talking about Ethereum, it did get as low as 1.5 there, popped up, and now we see Ethereum there trying to make a move there at $1,600. Let's move on now to the top alts by market cap. We see BNB there, $296. Up 0.45%. So it's a mixture we're having on the top alts of market cap there with XCC there, eCash and XRP. The down is 1.70% and 1.47%. We see Cardano at 45 cents, up 0.03%. Let's bring in Gilbert Jopata now, financial market analyst. Hello, Gilbert. Great to have you.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Gilbert. And talking about crypto exchanges, I saw a headline about FTX exchange. Even though it's leaked document, they actually made revenue of about 1,000% in 1 year. And this is a bear market. How is that possible?
All right. This is such an eye-popping growth from FTX, I must say. But this is not surprising. We have seen this again and again during bull markets where crypto startups take advantage of the craze for insane revenue. We have seen unknown startups become billion-dollar companies within just within few years. But that of FTX is remarkable. It's interesting how they're able to compete with the major giants like Binance and Coinbase to cementing their place as the world's largest exchange by trading volume. So that document actually revealed more of 1,000% growth from about 89 million to about a billion. But you know, it's not surprising. They actually have spent about 15% of their revenue in advertisements, which they have enough celebrity endorsement, naming right on NBA, also sponsoring the Super Bowl, to also extending their boundaries to acquiring Ledger, Robinhood. to also acquiring a whole lot of crypto companies that are going through bankruptcy. And so far in 2022, the first quarter, that document actually revealed that the first quarter of this year have already seen them make a revenue of over 270 million US dollar. Though the second quarter of this year, it did not disclose the figure, but they are also set to be at over $1 billion in revenue this year. If you look at more of the model FTX is using, they are going mainstream into advertisement, and they are more focused on derivative and futures market, which is where most sophisticated players go to trade the market. So they have cemented themselves when it comes to derivative and futures market. So much of their volume and revenue comes from that place, and very little comes from spot trading.
Quite interesting. And this is a time we're seeing Coinbase, actually struggle. And we see the stock, the price of the coin stock also struggling too. But what are you seeing for Bitcoin price action this week?
We just have to pay a very close attention to two things. One, the technicals, and then monetary policy. Bitcoin may have completed its falling wedge, but the thing is that I think there is vulnerability at the bottom, because traders may try to test the boundaries of that falling wedge. And if that happens, it may just be the beginning of our next leg down, especially if we see that the dollar is gaining strength at this point. And meanwhile, we should also pay attention to the Fed's chairman speech that will be taking place in Jackson Hole on Friday, because there are a whole lot of debates from analysts and traders if we will maintain more of a 75 basis point hike, or if we will see a 50 basis point hike. So I think the chairman is going to clear that debate at that point. But meanwhile, as long as we if you look at the minutes that was published by the Fed last week, you will see that the Feds are more than ready to keep increasing rates if as long as core inflation still exists.
All right, Gilbert, we keep watching those rates to see how it impacts all these markets. Thank you so much, Gilbert Repata, financial market analyst.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ladi.
All right, let's flip quickly now. Top 5 gainers. EOS there, topping the counter, up 18.41%. Chile's token up 15%. Lido Dow up 6. Then Curve Dow and Seawater topping the losers counter now. Quickly, we see who's topping there. Celsius, yeah, they have that issue, liquidity issue there. It's down 22.90%. It's the biggest down that we're getting on top 100 tokens at this point. All right, that's it for the markets. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to watch this again on our YouTube channel. You can also watch other videos. Just go to YouTube and search for Channels Television. And remember, join us at 1:30 for Business Incorporated for more updates in the world of business. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye-bye.